Hello and welcome to The Ringer's NBA free agency and trade rumors. I guess it's an extravaganza. It's only two of us. I'm Chris Ryan. I'm an editor at TheRinger.com. Kevin O'Connor is our basketball writer. Kevin, what's up, man?
What's up?
We start where all conversations about free agency have to start, and that's with LeBron James. As of right now, where we are now, do you think that LeBron James is willing to go to a team, be it staying in Cleveland or going to Los Angeles, where he is the only star who's going to be going there, or do you think that he needs another all-star or two to join him?
There's the report on Wednesday from ESPN that he would not want to be the first star to go to the new destination. However, I am intrigued by the fact that, if he is the first person to go there, you would think, whether it's in 2019 or during the season when trades become available, that others would want to go to LA. I think if you're LeBron, I've heard pretty consistently that he's going to do whatever he wants to do, whether that's just going back to Cleveland for one more year and then trying it again next summer with whatever destinations are there, whether it's the Lakers, who, why would they not want LeBron in 2019? Sure. He's going to do what he wants to do. I think if you're LeBron, you do need to think about going to LA by yourself, even if Paul George is staying in OKC for 1 year, even if the Lakers aren't willing to cough up assets for Kawhi Leonard. Because guess what, Chris? If the Lakers sign Kawhi instead of trading all their stuff for him, then they could use all those assets to get a third guy.
Right. This is another situation where a superstar player has announced where he would like to go. Carmelo back in 2011 said, I want to be a New York Knick, not a Net, not a Bull, not this. The Knicks really were put in a position where they had to go get their guy, and they wound up giving up a huge amount of assets to Denver in order to bring Carmelo, and it wound up sort of changing both his career and the trajectory of the Knicks. Are the Lakers in danger of something like that happening with Kawhi?
It feels like that's what's happening already, like even with this pressure that's been reported on them to make the deal happen now, right? And if you're going to make it happen now, you're going to have to give up Brandon Ingram or Lonzo Ball, but more likely Ingram. I think that's the player the Spurs would prefer in a deal with just those two teams, not a three-way. And if you're going to cough up that asset, then what more do you have to get that third guy, whether it's in 19 or 20 in a trade, however avenue that it comes, you're giving that up for the guy that you could outright sign in a year from now. And if you're the Lakers, maybe that's why they might rather focus on 2019, because guess what? Next summer you can outright sign LeBron and Kawhi still. And it might be a little bit easier next summer as well, because Luol Deng at that point, the contract they would have to give up to create the two max slots would only have 1 year left instead of the 2 years.
So he becomes an expiring deal.
Yes.
Let's talk contenders for these guys. LeBron, free agent if he opts out. But everybody is saying it's really between Lakers re-signing with Cleveland with an outside chance of Philadelphia. If you had to be, if I pressured you to do so, what would you say it kind of breaks down in terms of percentages for those teams?
45% Lakers, 45% Cavaliers, and 10% Philadelphia.
So the idea of him staying in the East is no longer the guiding principle for him.
I don't think so. I think all along, everybody else thought like he has the easiest path to the finals.
Sure.
Like he can get there every single year, and that's true. But for him, it's not about getting to the finals. It's about winning the whole thing and having a team that actually do that. And obviously with the other factors with family and wanting to raise his kids and all that type of stuff as well. But I think in terms of the basketball implications of the decision, it's about the best spot to actually win the NBA Finals. Because look, nobody talks about Michael Jordan's years never making the finals. They only talk about his 6-0 record.
Yeah.
And LeBron James is always going to have those final losses used against him. And staying in Cleveland, those are just going to rack up every year.
And then when we come to Kawhi Leonard and the teams that could feasibly make an offer to the Spurs for him. Now, the Spurs may very well just say, like, too bad. You already said you missed last year, basically, except for 9 games. Why don't we see how far we can take this, even if it means if it's a bad situation at the trade deadline in the middle of next season, maybe we make a move then. Who do you think are credible players for Kawhi Leonard?
I think the teams for sure are Philadelphia, Boston, LA Clippers, and there's the report that Cleveland would go for him as well, but I don't think they have the right assets. Right. They just don't have the ammo to make it happen. Philly and Boston certainly do. With Philly, you have Markelle Fultz. You have future assets. You have Zaire Smith, who you just drafted. With Boston, you have Jaylen Brown, a really young, appealing player for the Spurs. But if you're Boston or Philadelphia, knowing that Kawhi would prefer to go to Los Angeles, are you really going to cough up that asset unless you get like the strongest wink promise in the history of league promises that he's going to stay there? I don't know if that's worth the risk. And for San Antonio, that makes it tough for them because how do you create leverage to get what is fair value for Kawhi Leonard, who, by the way, yes, he only played 9 games last year, but before that, people were talking about him as right next to KD.
Yeah, maybe the best two-way player in the game and a top 3 player.
Yes.
Another player, and you mentioned this idea of like trading a lot of assets to get a player with no guarantees they'll resign. Sounds a lot like the Paul George situation, right? Yeah. So we have Paul George in Oklahoma. Sam Presti made that trade last summer to bring in Paul George for Sabonis and Oladipo. Always been linked with the Lakers, Los Angeles guy. But rumors that he might sign a LeBron-esque 1-and-1 deal in Oklahoma. What do you think about Paul George?
I think for Indiana last year, like they found a deal that would have crossed the line to do it, right? San Antonio needs to find that as well. And now for Paul George, Oklahoma City took a necessary risk. You know, it was really no risk. Oladipo in that situation was fine. He wasn't the guy that he turned into. Sabonis was expendable.
Yeah.
And so they took the necessary risk, and now, after a fairly successful season, I do think there's a chance that Paul George does stay there, at least for the 1-and-1. And like to tie this back to the Lakers, that's why it's like the opportunity to sign Paul George might not go away if he signs that 1-year deal. It will be intriguing. It seems like they have some unfinished business there in Oklahoma City. Robertson got hurt. George didn't perform well towards the end of the season. His numbers just fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Maybe he feels like I need to give
one
more year to really make another run at this with OKC and Russell Westbrook, and then maybe make your decision in 2019. When guess what? It's not just LeBron. It's like Kawhi's a free agent. Jimmy Butler's a free agent. Klay Thompson's a free agent. It's a stacked class in 19. So maybe that's the year to make your choice when you have more guys you could team up with.
A sort of neglected position in the NBA, center. We've been moving away from centers for the last few years in the postseason. All we talk about is small ball. We have a couple of really premium big men on the market, although each come with some negative Yelp reviews.
Yes.
We got Boogie Cousins, who's coming off an Achilles injury, historically a very difficult injury to return from. And we've got DeAndre Jordan, who, even if he opts into the last year of his contract with the Clippers, is considered a trade chip. What do you think is going to happen with Boogie and DeAndre, the big men of this class?
So I reported in February, I think, that Dallas was going to pursue DeMarcus Cousins, DeAndre Jordan, Julius Randle, and it's since been mentioned that Clint Capella from the Houston Rockets is another guy that may be on their list. And they didn't draft a center, obviously. They traded up to get Luka Doncic, top prospect on me, Charks, and Danny Child's board this year. So they are in a position now to pursue a big man. I think DeAndre Jordan would maybe be one of the top options because he can be a 1-year deal with the player option or a 2-3-year deal, either in some type of sign and trade. Boogie, that's the big question mark to me. Do you want to take that gamble if you're the Dallas Mavericks when you have this really nice young core?
Yeah.
Do you want to gamble on DeMarcus Cousins when he's coming off that major injury that has derailed careers in the past? I'm not sure that you do that. To me, if I'm Dallas, I think DeAndre Jordan's the guy that I'd prefer, and then maybe going for Clint Capella and just forget Boogie.
There is a really interesting crop of restricted free agents out there from, I guess the draft was like 3 or 4 years ago that a lot of these guys are coming from. So you've got Capella, you've got Jabari Parker, who never quite popped off in Milwaukee and had a series of injuries. Aaron Gordon, who showed some real flashes of developing his game last year in Orlando, but is looking for the max, and Orlando may or may not want to give it to him. What do you think is the most interesting storyline to be watching out of this restricted free agent class?
I think it's some of those guys who are good, not great yet. The Jabari Parkers of the world, the Aaron Gordons, even a Marcus Smart, who is already a ferocious defender, but his offense has not gotten to the level that you'd like it to be.
But he's coming off of like the most incredible like movie trailer, if you want to put one together, of that playoff run that Boston made.
For sure, it's all of those guys. Like, which one of them is going to pop right on their second contract, or none of them might? I think Jabari Parker is the really interesting one to me because before his second torn ACL, which again injuries are concerned with him as well. He was really good for the Bucks, not last season, but the year before. An efficient 20 points per game at 6'8", so mobile, so quick, so athletic. If I'm a team in need of a go-to scorer, a guy who can get you buckets at the end of the clock, I'm looking at Parker if he's healthy. I mean, like, if you feel good about his ACL injury history, then maybe you take a shot on him.
Let's talk a little bit before we get out of here about unexpected teams that could be big players in free agency. We obviously have been talking a ton about the Lakers, a bit about the Sixers, the Mavericks. Who are some other teams you think could get involved?
I think if Phoenix wants to get involved, they could. They have a little bit of cap space to add to their young core. And I would. If I'm them, I would explore this summer, even though I'd prefer to punt to 2019, because then you have another year of development, see how your core looks, and then you have a better idea of what you need, but also maybe you're a more appealing destination for bigger names out there next summer. But Phoenix is interesting.
I'd love to see Marcus Smart on Phoenix.
That'd be
because
interesting.
you'd bring a young group of players, a guy who's still in his prime, quote unquote, who has all this playoff experience and incredible competitive grit, to add to these young guys who were like coming off of usually 1-2 years of a college year or their rookie season. That would really like up their quality for me to bring a guy like Smart in.
Indiana's another one,
Yeah.
right? Like where they have a lot of cap space that they can create depending on what happens with their non-guaranteed contracts, where guys like Parker or Smart, add them to their core with Oladipo, they suddenly become more intriguing than they already are, right? With Miles Turner and Sabonis and Oladipo on that roster, add a couple pieces, maybe they're in a position to make a push for the Eastern Conference Finals, and who knows what happens. They wouldn't be
If
favorites.
LeBron's not there, you can consider it wide open, right?
Absolutely.